everyone. Before starting my presentation, actually, I would like to clarify my connection with the University of Texas at Austin. So I have been a visiting scholar here for over 2 years, actually. And I would like to thank my advisor, Joseph Strauba. I don't think he's here this afternoon. Also, Rosenthal, who is my co-advisor. And actually, I have a really I would like to explain my motivation to pursue this research topic of locative media. I remember the first time I went to Rosenthal's office and I said, oh, I'm thinking of studying this topic of locative media. And he looked at me, what is locative media? And we kind of discussed this for months, and I realized that was really important to come up with a conceptual framework to explain to people actually what is locative media. So today I'm going to talk about this research project which is called Back to the Future of News, looking for locative media principles in the pre-news area. And what I mean by that is, what can we learn by looking to the past of news, and how can we apply looking into the past of news for really fundamental principles, and how can we apply those fundamental principles into digital journalism practices? So my first point today in this presentation is the fact that our need to understand information through places, through location, through maps is not something new. Actually, something fundamentally rooted to the birth of news during the 16th and 17th centuries in Europe, mainly in France, where newspapers first appeared. And this behavior was replicated across the centuries. So if you look at this image, I don't know if you can see it really well, but was taken in Paris in 1917, and you can see a man climbing a ladder to update a map. And in the middle of the First World War. So people, you can see a crowd of people trying to understand what the latest news in the middle of the war. Actually, the map was given by this French newspaper, Excelsior, to the residents in Paris. And today we are here in Austin, Texas, 2014, and we all have our maps in our pockets, and we can navigate the map. We can share our location through Foursquare with our friends, with our family, and we can attach information to the Bratton Museum. As you can see, this is a screenshot of a mobile application called Field Trip that's owned by Google. And just to emphasize this connection between maps and news, we have evidence from past research that newspapers readers in France, they used to get lost by reading newspapers without looking at maps. Actually, newspaper sellers in the streets of Paris, they used to sell maps along with newspapers. Or newspapers readers, they used to look at maps hanging in the bookstores in Paris. And again, that's the historical parallel I do in my research. Today, we are not only able to see our location on maps, but we are able to see, for example, today here at the Bratton Museum, the history of museum. We are also able to see the picture of the building, and we can see other information around the University of Texas at Austin very locally. So I'm showing this image today to convey our fundamental need to understand information through location, through maps. But the fundamental question I raise in this research is, what makes people to look for information based on location in the past and today? So this is all about curiosity. Actually, during the 16th and 17th centuries, curiosity was not only a word as we use it today, but was a whole concept, a whole culture that shaped discourse, that shaped news and knowledge as a whole. So curiosity was something inside a person that makes her or him to desire something, but also about those objects that make them desirable. So if you look at this image, it illustrates the cabinet of curiosities, which could be a piece of furniture or a whole room where wealthy European families used to bring natural artifacts from the colonies. So the cabinet of curiosities became a metaphor for everything, for news, for history, for knowledge as a whole. And it conveys the idea of bringing places before inaccessible to audiences in Europe. But the question is, how is, if you think about the relationship of curiosity with locative media, I don't know if you are familiar with this term, but it means the possibility of attaching information to a specific location through mobile technologies, or maybe augmented reality is a more well-known term. So in order to understand this relationship between locative media in news, we should think about locative media in terms of three concepts. First, history. So first you have to realize that during the culture of curiosities in the 16th centuries and 17th centuries, again, the distinction between history and news was not absolute. So when I talk about history today, I talk about news and vice versa. In this sense, news was made into a collection of curiosities or into a collection of fragments. News was made in this collection of fragments in order to provide imaginary access to other times and places. Curiosity was mainly a way to legitimize news when society didn't have the habit of reading news, and the church, of course, was preventing society of learning everything. So they had to come up with a way to engage readership when there was no habit at all of reading news. And second, maps. Just allocation-based technologies change our perceived notion and boundaries of space. By analogy to the cabinet of curiosities, news was explicitly used to transport the readers mentally to other places and to bring those places to readers' minds. And the third concept, very crucial to understand this connection between locative media, news, and curiosities, is sense of place. It's the fact that it illustrates the revival of the concept of place for news as a repository of information and also information delivery. So I defended today that locative media is a possibility of exploring this potential of place as a repository of news. So Rosenthal was talking this morning about collecting all the past editions of ISOJ, and I was thinking, Blatten Museum is the place where this conference happens every year. So this is the repository of all ISOJ conferences. So how do the principles of the culture of curiosities resonate today? So I'm going to introduce this concept of Foursquare as our cabinet of curiosities, Foursquare as a cabinet of spatial information. So if you look at the center of this slide, you're going to see a tip left by the local newspaper in Austin Statesman, about the Blatten Museum. So if you check in on Foursquare right now, this is going to be the first information you're going to get on your smartphone. And you can see also a tip left by History Channel. So Foursquare has been used by media outlets in the West, such in the same way as Facebook and Twitter. So this is a really powerful way to engage young and mobile users, smartphone users in the right location. And to wrap up my presentation, I would like to pose this question. So if you think about this relationship between locative media and news and curiosity, how does it affect journalism? So I first think that in order to take advantage of location-based technologies, geolocation, or even wearable technologies which are really related to locative media, we first have to break with the preconceived ideas of what news should be. And once we do that, we became able to approach news from more in terms of space rather than time. So history here is really important, as I said before, historic information. So once we tie historic information of this place, Blatten Museum, to the location, you provide the user with this historic information, it becomes very powerful because it changes your sense of place and you feel more connected with the place where you are. And I also argue that approaching news from the curiosity standpoint might be also a way to engage young readership. So in the sense of rare, exotic, something that is hidden. So what about this building? How was this building 50 years ago? So to approach news in the sense of unearthing and layering layers of information in the physical world. And to conclude, I really believe that curiosity is a powerful strategy to engage and to recreate the habit of reading news, especially for the new generations of consumers, the millennials, by engaging them with the physical location where they are and enhancing their sense of place. So thank you very much.